So in this video, what we're going to do is create the code to be able to move this, animate this with code, as opposed to animating it with the animator. Both are really good solutions, but the code solution allows you to have more control over adding it to other objects and adding it to a prefab or other prefabs. So in this solution here, I'm going to go into my assets folder, and then I'm going to go to the scripts folder, and over here I'm going to right click in my scripts folder. I'm going to go create. I'm going to create a new C# script, and that's going to open up Visual Studio after I double click it here. But for right now I need to rename this, and I'm going to name this move left right. So when I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and double click on that. And I'll go ahead and start typing this code. I'm going to start off with my variables. So right above this start, I'm going to start typing. So this is the original position of the object. That's going to be a vector 3, and I'm going to 0 that out. The next thing is going to be my transform. And then I'm going to need the axes where I'm going to move, and I'm only going to use, I can use the vector 3. So this is going to allow me to actually change the vector. That's why I'm going to make this public. Only going to use 2, so I'm not going to use necessarily the z-axis. So I'm going to use the x and the y, so I can put this to a vector 2. And what that'll do, it'll still allow me to take this and put it in here, but what it'll do is it'll 0 out the one that's not being used. So this is how far it's going to move left and right. Now inside of my awake function, so I'm going to create my awake function here. I'm going to call upon this transform, and I'm going to go ahead and get all the components that I need. And then I'm going to need the original position. All right, so I have this transform. So I pulled that from the component that this is attached to. And then I'm going to call upon the original position of the object that this is attached to. Now from there, I can go ahead inside of my update, not inside the start. I don't really need the start here. I'm going to go inside this update. And you see how these brackets are down right here? I think normally, I leave mine on top, and this is just a matter of style. So up inside this update, I'm going to call upon this transform, the position, And that's going to equal the original position plus the move axis. I'm going to multiply that times the math. And then I'm going to call upon a dot ping pong in the math. And that what that's going to do is going to make it go from one position to the next within a certain amount of time. So we don't have to actually loop through that ourselves. And if we look at the documentation to this, we'll see that the math ping pong, the return value will move back and forth between 0 and the length that we give it. So we're looking here between these transforms. So any of these procedures that I'm using, all of these procedures that I'm using are all here inside of the documentation, inside of the Unity documentation. So if you ever have any questions about anything, you can go ahead and look here. You see here it takes this float, which is the time, and then this length. And that's exactly what we did here. We gave it the time and the distance, and this is why we put this distance here, because we already knew we would be using this math ping pong to be able to achieve what we wanted to achieve. Let's go and see this code work. I'm going to select this platform, and I'm going to drag this move left and right onto the inspector. Now I'm going to show you an error that could occur when you're writing your script. Let me remove this. So let's say if I was dragging this script, I'm going to select the platform again, and I'm going to drag the script over to the platform, and then you get an error that looks something like this. It says can't add script component move left right because the script cannot be found. Make sure that there are no compile errors and that the file name and class name match. If you get that error, it's pretty much saying that there's an issue with the name of your class, and that's going to be up here. You have to make sure that this name here is the exact same name that you name the file itself. For some reason, sometimes Unity will just go ahead and name this new behavior, or it didn't rename it based off of the class that was created. And what happens is, it's not really Unity's fault. What happens is when you create a new script here, sometimes you end up pressing enter. And as soon as you press enter and then rename it, a lot of times this may stay the same. So this is why this says new behavior script. But really what it should say is move left, right. So that would be the reason why that error comes up. Now once I save this and I go back here, I'm going to take this move left to right and I'm going to drag it over there, and as you can see it works now. Now the way we use this code is that we have to decide which axes we want it to move on. We're going to have ours move on the x-axis, and we're going to have it move at a distance of 3 meters. So when I go ahead and hit play, what we should see is 2 platforms moving. This one's going to move at 3 meters from where it started. So now we got ourselves a pretty interesting game going on. I can try to... So this one right here, maybe we'll stop this one from going all the way, because you can pretty much ride that one all the way over in a way. Or maybe this one right here will push it over. But as you can see, with the control that we have, we can make this move at a completely different angle and at a completely different distance. So this allows us now to add this script almost to any platform and actually make our game a little bit more interesting. So I would suggest using both methods. If you don't think you're going to need the animation on anything else, go ahead and use it with the animator when it comes to things like this. And if you think you're going to need to use it on other things, go ahead and use, write the code to it. The only other function I think we could possibly add to this that would make it more interesting is a time, like how fast we want it to go. So if I went back here and I were to make public float. We'll call that speed. I'm going to multiply that speed by time. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then when I run this again, I'm looking at this here. And now, as you can see, I have the speed there. So when I run this, I'm still getting the same thing I did before. But when I go ahead and add a 2 to that, you notice the speed is going a lot faster. If I add a 3, it goes even faster. But if I had a 0, it pretty much stays still. So maybe you want this to stay still at one point, but when the character comes close, then all of a sudden it starts to move. This is a really good way of doing that. I mean, we could make this go very fast. Now, how are you going to get past that? Make the game pretty much impossible to play. But as you can see, you can have a lot of fun with this. And you can also see the advantages of making animation with script when you think you're going to need it more than what it's there for. So you guys go ahead and have fun with this, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, so I'll see you guys then. Bye.